Right. Hello. Just check the microphone here real quick. There we go. Oh yes, we're coming in nice. We're not muted. Welcome. Hello. Yes, it's fresh as a daisy, LmL. I'm fresher at 12 a.m. than 12 p.m. or whichever one is during the day. It's midnight for me. It's close to midnight. But for you, it may be any time. It may be 8 in the morning if you're in merry old England or east of there. Shout out to Australia, Japan, Germany, Turkey, Greece, anywhere else you might be. Or you could be watching after the fact. Anywhere from the future. Hello, friends. I am here for y'all because, I usually do them at the same time, which is 3 p.m. my time. But that's a little hard for some of you guys to catch in the different time zones. So I do try to mix in one a month late night stream. It's fun for me. There's no birds. And it's got that fun late night energy. And then, of course, it is Sunday morning. So for those of you who woke up early, thank you very much. I think I appreciate you more than anyone. Definitely shout out to my 3 a.m. East Coast crew. You guys are awesome. You're my people for sure. My hat goes off in admiration to those of you who get up early. But friends, we're here to answer questions. Your questions. You're driving the ship today. You can follow up with questions, about any of the things we've streamed in lately. If you haven't gotten a chance to ask your Danny question or make a point about Danny since my Real Daenerys video, we can do that. The last few live streams I did, we plowed through all kinds of cool ancient lore: Karth, the Bones, Ancient Dothraki, Sarnor, Fisher Queens, all that stuff, so we can talk migration patterns. I've been frantically working about a theory about the ice spiders, but that's really about the others and the weirwoods and stuff like that. So if you have any others weirwood questions, that's cool. So any of that stuff is welcome. You can send in your questions. The best place, I prefer it, if you can send them in at paypal.me/mythicalastronomy. The link is down below in the description. You don't even need a PayPal. It's just an easy one-time donation thing. And you can send in your question in the notes field. That's the important thing. Attach your question in the notes. And I prefer it because I get to keep all the money, and also because the questions end up queued very nicely in my email, and I don't miss them. I can go back and get them at my convenience. Of course, you can also use the super chat function inside of YouTube. You know how that works, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk Song of Ice and Fire. I've already got a couple of PayPals that came in. Thank you guys for sending them in early before the stream. I always appreciate getting a look ahead of time. Let me move this up here a little higher. From Anthony. Thank you, Anthony. And yes, we do have the super chat theremin working. Thanks for your work. I'm rereading Clash. And in Brand 1, he describes the game Lord of the Crossing. Oh, yes. With wood across the water, the Frey hive mind guarding it. You have to trick them to take their place, or wolves can't play, but Rickon uses Shaggy Dog. Stark beats the hive mind and then controls it. What's going on? Do the others obey Azor Ahai / the Night's King? I do believe they do. So, the Lord of the Crossing is building on the symbolism of the twins. And I have some great The Twins artwork that I've found lately, I believe. Let's see. Oh, yeah, there's a couple of good ones. One by Michael Comark and one by Logan Felciano. Let's put the art up on the screen. So this first one is Michael Comark. You can see Rob. I'll minimize from the Fisher Queens in the background there. See Rob and company heading to their doom at the Red Wedding. So sorry, Rob. Thanks for playing the Game of Thrones. You lose. And here is the one I was thinking of. This is Logan Felciano. Super cool. You see the fortresses on either side and then the tower in the middle. So I'll leave this up as I talk about the twins. And say thank you to Ghost Snacks for the super chat that I'll stick up here on the board while we wait. Let me see if I can. So the twins, it's Lord of the Crossing. So there's obviously this is weirwoodnet stuff. We know that of course, I'll try to stop saying of course, the weirwoods represent the crossing between life and death. That's why the weirwood so often is a door symbol. The Black Gate at the Night Fort, the Moon Door at the Eyrie, and the House of Black and White. Those are all doors associated with death. Minty Maelstrom using her 5 months of super chat. Of course, if you join the Squisher, you get join the YouTube member, which we call Squisher. Then you get a free highlighted question. It's like a free super chat per month. So, all right. So, yeah, the crossing is a big thing. So, for example, the Black Gate at the Night Fort, you cross the wall. And when you cross the wall, you're leaving the land of the living. And people talk about, oh, the wall is the end of the world. We're going beyond. It's the haunted forest and the others and the Snarks and the Grumpkins. There's more to it than that, but pretty easy to see how the Weirwood Door at the Black Gate is symbolically a door between the land of the living and the land of the dead. House of Black and White is obvious. It's the house of death. They worship the death god. There's assassins inside. You go inside, you lose your identity, just like when you die. So Arya goes into the House of Black and White, and she sees the ebony and weirwood door, right? Then we have the Moon Door at the Eyrie, which is literally an execution method. You get pushed through the weirwood Moon Door and you die. So that's a door of death. And even Daenerys in the House of the Undying, the last chamber that she is almost tempted to go in, the one with the very glamorous version of the Gemstone Emperors, or the Undying rather, where they're in bejeweled armor and they look like splendor of wizards and all that shit. Those doors are ebony and weirwood, but the pattern is swirling like magically because this is all illusion. If Dany were to go into that door, she would die. Remember, the whole thing about the Undying is she has to take the door to the right. There was a little crappy door hidden to the right that Drogon found, and that's where she found the real Undying. So it was Dany's last temptation in her House of the Undying, and it was a Weirwood Door. So the Weirwood Door is a door of death, and there's a thing about the crone supposedly opening the door of death and letting in the first ravens, the ravens being the messengers of the dead. So this is all what we'd call psychopomp stuff, right? A psychopomp figure in mythology is a character who escorts the souls of the living to the realm of the dead. You can look at Cold Hands as a psychopomp figure because he's taking the people at the wall and sort of escorting them into the land of the dead. Cernunnos is a psychopomp figure. Hades, any Lord of the Underworld figure. Jesus would be a psychopomp figure. So these are usually, a lot of times these figures themselves have to master the transition between life and death. Odin is a psychopomp figure. And then because they've mastered that transition or mastered death, they can act as a custodian or a guide. All right. So the Lord of the Crossing, that title, even if you knew nothing about A Song of Ice and Fire, the Lord of the Crossing is a psychopomp title. He is the one, he's the ferryman. Just like when you got to cross the river Styx, you have to pay the ferryman, right? I forget the exact details of that one, but there's a lot of versions of that kind of myth where you do have to pay. And if you don't have to pay, then you're paying with your life's deeds, right? Like whether you're worthy to cross a lot of times there's a river between the promised land and sort of the land of the living, or even like the holding area versus the promised land version of the promised, like the good part of the underworld, the heaven part. So the Lord of the Crossing from the phrase, right? He's essentially denying some people the crossing or allowing the crossing. And then, of course, when the Starks try to cross after having double-crossed the phrase by breaking their vows, then he escorts them literally into the land of the dead by killing them all at the Red Wedding. So you can see that the symbolism is running a lot of different ways. There's also a cool quote, which I can pull up really quick, where we even see the Horned Lord dancing on the waters. at the twins. And it's a really cool quote, so I'll read the whole paragraph. Eddard. It is going to be in a Catelyn chapter, I believe. I might have searched too broad a term. No, why isn't this? Why am I? Oh, it's because I searched Horned Lord and I want Horned Moon. That's why I'm talking and doing things at the same time. All right, so first, Catelyn, for what it's worth, when she's climbing the Eyrie, she sees the Horned Moon dancing upon the dark waters of the moat at the castle at the foot of the Giant's Lance, which is the Gates of the Moon. But then we see, yes, here it is at the twins. So after Catelyn gives the terms to Robb, Robb says, "I consent." Robb said solemnly. He had never seemed more a man to her than he did in that moment. Boys might play with swords, but it took a lord to make a marriage pact, knowing what it meant. They crossed at evenfall as a horned moon floated upon the river. The double column wound its way through the gate of the eastern twin like a great steel snake, slithering across the courtyard, into the keep and over the bridge, issuing forth once more from the second castle on the west bank. So the horned moon is floating upon the river, and the army is crossing over like a snake. So the snake part is definitely some Azor Ahai stuff. And it says, Catelyn rode at the head of the serpent, with her son and Uncle Brynden and Sir Stevern Frey. So it's cool. It's basically they're riding a dragon, essentially, crossing over here. Behind following 9/10 of their horse, Afterward, Catelyn would remember the clatter of countless hooves on the drawbridge, the sight of Lord Walder Frey and his litter watching them pass, the glitter of eyes peering down through the slats of the murder holes in the ceiling as they rode through the water tower. So, a little bit of star eyes glittering down there with the eyes peering down from the ceiling. So it's kind of like, again, you're crossing over this river. It's kind of like crossing into space. Like, think of Drogo when he dies and his body is burned. He ascends to the stars, right? So here we have, at this place that's the crossing, we've got the Horned Lord, the Horned Moon up in the sky. And then we've got this snake crossing. And peering down are all these star eyes. They're peering through the murder holes. And, of course, these people will eventually murder Robb. So this is definitely foreshadowing. But it's also murderous stars peering down. So you got moon meteors happening. So the whole point of the crossing is that this is when somebody crosses over a bridge like this, they're crossing into the weirwoodnet, if we're talking symbolism in A Song of Ice and Fire. So Robb essentially is an Azor Ahai figure. He's a young, bold prince, who fears nothing and is, journeying out into the woods, out into somebody else's land to do battle, much like Waymar or a lot of other characters. So he's riding a dragon, essentially, and crossing into the weirwoodnet here. Nissa Nissa, in this case, his mom, Catelyn, is doing the Nissa Nissa role, is the one that has negotiated this crossing of the boundary. So like I said, the crone is in charge of the Door of Death. Nissa Nissa, when she dies, she goes into the weirwoodnet, and she seems to have some control over that. She might become Corpse Queen and send the others back out of the weirwoodnet. That's what it's increasingly seeming like. So going back to the scene in the Godswood, they're fighting over the bridge, which is the crossing. So this is there's a lot of fights inside the weirwoodnet, and this is something I wanted to get back to in my Origin of the Others, Creation of the Others string of live streams, where we were talking about how the others were ripped out of the weirwoodnet. Remember, there's a battle in the Whispering Wood. The Whispering Wood, of course, is an obvious shorthand for the weirwood. I'm not doing well at not saying of course, am I? But it's two parties fighting over a weirwood symbol. And there's a few scenes that are like that. I'm trying to organize a couple of them so we can read through them and try to figure out what they mean. But this little scene in the Godswood is one I should look back at too, because it's the same thing in miniature, where basically the Green Seers and the others are fighting over the Weirwood net. Azor High represents the invasion of the human Green Seers into the Weirwood net. The others would be the Green Seers that were, I always say kicked out of the Weirwood net, but remember, the more developed version of that idea is that there's a partition that mirrors the partition of the wall. The wall divides the green, warm lands, right, of the living from the frozen lands where the others live and the otherized wildlings. So I believe, it seems like there's a lot of symbolism. Check out the Signs and Portals podcasts, that the Weirwood net was similarly bifurcated and divided. And so the others, instead of being completely kicked out of the Weirwood net, are essentially partitioned off into a frozen, dead part of the Weirwood net. So just as we see the Green Sea symbolism for the Green Seers, the others are associated with a frozen pond, right? The whole idea with the Green Sea symbolism is that the Green Seers live in an astral realm, which is like a sea. So it's a green sea. And we see that symbolism all the time. Like Cat, when she dies, is thrown into the green fork. That's like Nissa Nissa being thrown into the Weirwood net. So, upon death. And of course, Cat gets the Weirwood stigmata at the Red Wedding, where she looks like a Weirwood tree. She has bloody tears. She has a carved face. She carves her own face. She has blood in her mouth, bloody hair. So she looks like a Weirwood tree. Then she dies, thrown into the green fork. So it's all very consistent Weirwood symbolism. The others are always coming out of the icy pond. Their voice is like the breaking of the ice on the pond. So it's just the frozen version of the Green Sea symbolism. So this crossing is important. The wall is also, the barrier is also the crossing, right? So that's the thing, like the Black Gate at the Night Fort, it's a crossing in the wall, a crossing in the partition. And I'm going to talk about this more in the Ice Spiders video, but essentially I think that the others, just as we think the wall is going to break, that partition in the Weirwood net's going to come down, and the others are going to be able to invade the Weirwood net. Where Bran is, where the Green Seers are, they might be able to use the Weirwoods for nasty things, and that's all going to be very bad. So, thank you, Ghost Snacks. Thank you, Minty. There was another super chat from Darth Locus. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. There it is. Another reason to like Stannis is how much Tywin feared him, saying he was a greater danger than all the others combined. Right, because he wasn't corruptible. He couldn't be bought off like Walder Frey. It's like, oh, I know how to deal with the Freys. I could just throw some money and some respect at him, and he'll go for it. So there you go. And also the opportunity for revenge. That was the real carrot that Tywin dangled to Walder, wasn't it? So, yeah, that is uncorruptibility. It's kind of like the untouchables, right? I mean, that's kind of the whole thing with Stannis. So that would be the answer. And yeah, Stannis is likable. He is, especially as the story goes on. By the time you read Theon's Winds of Winter chapter with Stannis, he's pretty damn likable at that point, sussing out all the treason and stuff. All right. Let me go back to the PayPals, because there are 3 or 4 that already came in. So thanks, Anthony, for kicking off that discussion. And I will go back. Thanks for reminding me about that scene. I'll go back and check it out. So next, when I talk about like the Whispering Wood and stuff, we'll compare it to the fight over the little bridge in the Godswood. And having it in the Godswood just makes it more obvious, right? They're literally crossing the pond in front of the Heart Tree. So one side represents going into the Weirwood net, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious. So, James D. In Theon, Clash of Kings, Theon 4, the symbol of a drowned fool with snakes in his stomach comes up twice. First, one of the Ironborn guards is found in the moat with his stomach cut open, and his entrails are described as a nest of pale snakes, and Theon calls him a fool. Later in the chapter, when Theon fails to find the Stark children, his stomach starts writhing like a nest of snakes, and he thinks he may as well wear a motley if he goes back to Winterfell empty-handed. Theon is Ironborn. Oh, right, wear a motley, so he turns into a fool. Theon is Ironborn, which symbolically makes him a drowned man. There's a related set of... So before I read this part of the question, let me just say that the serpents, the white serpents being in somebody, I believe this is weirwood roots. The weirwood roots are called wooden serpents when they're coiled around Bloodraven. Bloodraven himself is a wooden serpent. He's a white dragon who's turning into a tree. And of course, that is also building off of the Nidhogg serpent that lives amongst the roots of Yggdrasil. So I think the roots in the stomach, I think that's basically you've eaten the weirwood paste, and also the roots literally burrow into your body when you become a green seer. And the guy, so the first guy, he's in the moat, right? So he's drowned. Yeah, he's floating in the moat. And then Theon is also becoming a symbolic green seer. He's turning into the Grey King, essentially, and he's learning to hear the voice of the weirwoods. So I think that's the Song of Ice and Fire symbolism. Also, when we go to Moat Cailin, there is a white serpent in the bog, and it's crawling through one eye socket of a skull, which reminds us of Bloodraven and the weirwood root that is like a serpent burrowing out of one of his eyes. So it's more ties to the Green Sea and the Green Seer symbolism, essentially. It's pretty tight. Now, James goes on that there is a related set of myths in European mythology where the hero eats the flesh of a pale or white snake or dragon and gains the ability to talk to animals. Sometimes it's a fish. The brothers Grimm and Saxo Grammaticus recorded similar folktales where a servant eats a snake off the king's plate, which gives him the ability to speak to animals. The Germanic Scandinavian hero Siegfried gains the ability to speak to animals after eating the heart of the dragon Fafnir. So this could be serendipitous overlap, but it's certainly very similar, right? Like eating the weirwood paste or becoming a green seer gives you the ability to talk to animals. That's exactly what it does. Eating the snake, the idea of eating a snake, well, you're definitely eating the weirwood, like again, the weirwood roots are tunneling into your body, so you're eating them, quote unquote. And Bran also may be eating Jojen, which would kind of be like eating a fish, eating a frog. And also we see that Varamir Sixskins eats the heart of his master, Hagon, when he kills him to gain some sort of power. Now, eating a heart to gain power, that's a pretty broad concept. So I don't know if this is an intentional nod to this myth, but it certainly does line up because, again, what I was positing that the serpents in the belly represents is somebody having become a green seer, having joined up with the weirwood tree. So that kind of all fits together, doesn't it? Fafnir and Siegfried is a myth that I think George has on the brain for sure. Tyrion is Fafnir, a dragon sitting on a hoard of gold, if you will. If Tyrion's a Targaryen, that is. It's one of the clues about maybe he's a Targaryen, actually. So then, bounce back over to Super Chats, because I see one coming. I'd like to incentivize you to keep Super Chatting me by responding to the Super Chats. Yes. Darth Locust, my boy. Another reason to like... wait, no. I already did that one. Sorry, I'm scrolled back. Well, thanks again, Darth Locust. You're still my homie. You're my homie all over again. Nah, it was this one I was looking for. From Sean Gallagher. Hello from London. Do you think Arion Brightflame conceived bastards when exiled in Essos? Would his ancestors have a claim to the throne? Claim to the throne, I mean, technically no, but anybody can have a claim to the throne if they can convince people that they do. And so that is why Phagon is pretending to be Rhaegar's son, is because it is, well, not he's pretending, that's why he's being passed off as Rhaegar's son. Shouldn't blame Phagon. He probably doesn't even know who he is. Poor boy. Poleboat kid. So The reason why they're doing that is because it's a veneer of legitimacy. The title, it bears power. Rhaegar was respected. Targaryen dynasty has power, conveys fear as well as respect. So there you go. It's branding. So Arion Brightflame, no, he wasn't very popular. That's not a good brand. The Brightflame brand is tarnished. So if he has bastards, this would be the Brightfire theory. It basically means that the Illyrio, Phagon, Sarah, Varys family tree, which we think is mostly Blackfire, could have some Brightflame in it. So then Phagon becomes a mix of Arion Brightflame's genetics and the Blackfire bloodline, for what it's worth. So you can, if you want to look up that full theory, it's called the Brightfire theory. I am fairly convinced that Phagon is a Blackfire. The Brightfire theory is kind of a maybe extra thing on top of it. It's got some good support for it. So I would say look it up if you're interested in it. I don't remember the details to recap it accurately, but that is a thing. Jonathan Ford is encouraging me to watch The Wicker Man, which, yeah, I've been meaning to watch it. I just haven't gotten around to it. Also, your viewers might like Christopher Lee's rock opera album Charlemagne by the Sword and the Cross. Hanging out for the Weirwood Stigmata video we always talk about, too. Oh, yeah, I guess I should make a Weirwood Stigmata video. All of the stuff, obviously I'm going back through my various oldest podcasts and picking ideas out to make videos with, because a lot of the old podcasts are really dense. I was just starting out, so hopefully I'd like to think I've improved as a writer and a presenter and all that stuff. So the Weirwood Goddess series is prime up for revisiting. I talk about the Weirwood Stigmata all the time, the idea that Nissa Nissa was a child of the forest, but the only places I've really laid that out are back in those podcasts. So I definitely think that is coming. I need to do that. I also need to do one that's just like Azor Ahai was a green seer. That's one I don't have a dedicated video for, except for going all the way back to the Grey King and the Sea Dragon, Weirwood Compendium 1, which is like a 3-hour, 2-part podcast. It's not very accessible. So yeah, that needs to come. So no, it's not exactly what George said. The Long Night happened closer to 5,000 years ago when Valyria had hardly begun to rise. How do you think the transition from the Great Empire of the Dawn to Valyria happened? I'm pretty sure, I don't have the quote in front of me, but from what I remember, he was essentially saying that some Maesters think this and some Maesters think that, and we really don't know. And we wouldn't know because until written records were kept, you know what I mean? Like it's a little fuzzier. We're working with mythical history, so it doesn't really matter too much. I don't think so. So basically, like Valyria at the time of the Long Night was it was either like a colony of the Great Empire of the Dawn, or you're just looking at the indigenous shepherd people of that area with whom the Great Empire of the Dawn refugees would have intermarried and created the Valyrian race from. We don't know how that happened. We don't know if Valyrian-looking people came straight from the Great Empire of the Dawn, or if, like I said, there was a native shepherd people on the Valyrian Peninsula that intermarried with Great Empire of the Dawn refugees. Either one could make sense. But if the Great Empire of the Dawn was setting up colonies, that's what the Old Town fortress seems to be. It's a Phoenician-style trade fortress. And so the idea that they would have potentially had a colony in Valyria seems very possible. So let's see here. There is a sword, Heart Eater. That's Joffrey's sword. And all of the stuff about eating hearts is Weirwood stuff. The Weirwoods are heart trees, and they drink blood. So it's this sort of symbiotic relationship. The Green Seers consume the Weirwood trees. They invade the Weirwood trees. They eat the Weirwood paste. But the Weirwood trees also feed off of the green seer. They also sustain the green seer. So it's very much a symbiotic relationship where they're feeding off of each other. And train of thought, come back. Where was it? So the idea of a heart tree that eats you, it's a heart that's eating you, but you're also eating the heart tree. And when you become a green seer, then you feed off the blood that goes into the weirwood tree, right? The brand can taste the blood that's offered to the tree. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff about heart eating and all that. And it's lots of cannibalism in weirwood talk for sure. The heart eater sword gets thrown into the river also. There's a lot of swords that go into the water in A Song of Ice and Fire. That's usually the sign of a moon meteor landing in the ocean, which is sometimes mythicized as the sea dragon. As I brush some Cleo schmutz off of me. All right. 9:30 a.m. in the Netherlands. The Netherlands. Oh, here's a good one from Ibance. I do grab random questions out of the chat sometimes. It's very much whatever just happens to pop up in front of my eyes. But here's a good one. Do you think we're missing any big pieces to understand the story? Between all the theory videos in the community, I feel like we have a good blurry picture. So this is a great point. Yes, we are no doubt missing some very big pieces. George is a gardener. He's no doubt had ideas writing winds that he didn't know he would have, and he's probably had stuff that he's been keeping on the back burner for 25 years, like the ice spiders, for example, saving for the right moment to bring out, or like whatever's in the high tower at Old Town, whatever mysteries are there, is something that he's had the back of his mind for 30 years and is still waiting to break out. So yes, think about this. Before we read A Dance with Dragons, we didn't know anything about Phagon. The entire Phagon plot line, there was a little bit of foreshadowing for it as far as Blackfires and stuff, but there was really nothing that would lead you to guess that Rhaegar's son was alive out there, or somebody pretending to be Rhaegar's son, that Illyrio had a second Targaryen. Like, it changed the entire game. And we didn't know it was happening. We didn't know it was coming. So, yes, there's bound to be big pieces of the story in Winds that we just can't predict. And there's bound to be a lot of things that have crystallized into headcanon that we're sure is going to happen that maybe will happen a different way instead. For example, Jon's resurrection, right? The long-running fandom theory is that Melisandre's going to resurrect Jon, and that Jon's spirit is resting in Ghost, and that he's going to be drawn back to his body and he'll be resurrected. Well, then I discovered a lot of evidence that the others are actually going to steal his body. So check out the Lord Snow and the Promise to the Others videos. It's pretty convincing. I convinced myself doing the research anyway. And so if the others steal his body, that's a complication. That's, if you didn't think about that and you're just expecting Jon to be resurrected like he was on the show, maybe with just a little bit more fire magic instead of just the hair washing, well, it's going to be pretty surprising when Jon's body rises from the ice cell, claws its way out, and his eyes are glowing like blue stars. That's going to be a bit of a twist. So I've predicted that, but then there's also the question of, can Greenseers raise the dead? Bran's sort of asking about it. They're like, oh no, don't try to do that. That's very bad, and it's impossible also. But don't try. And that's kind of like pretty obviously suggesting that maybe Greenseers can, and that something bad will happen if they do. So, yes, I do think there's all kinds of things coming that we don't anticipate. And even some of my more wilder theories are going to be things that the other people will be very surprised by. Like if there's moon meteors, or if Azor Ahai is still in the Weirwood net as Night's King or the Great Other, and he body snatches Euron. That's going to surprise people. There's all kinds of things that could surprise people. So thanks for pointing this out. I do like to make this point sometimes, that no matter how much we think we've figured out where things are going, and we may be right with some of it, there will no doubt be things that were just like, wow, I was way off, So Yeah, it is fun to guess. So was it Lion's Tooth thrown in the water? Thanks. Yes, Heart Eater. What happens to Heart Eater? Is it not said? Is it just like he just has it and then they give him Widow's Wail and Heart Eater's forgotten? Thank you. Yes, it is Lion's Tooth that is thrown in the water. There might be a three forgings of Lightbringer pattern with Joffrey. Lightbringer was first attempted to be tempered in water, then the Heart of a Lion, and then Nissa Nissa. Lion's Tooth goes in the water. The second one is called Heart Eater. And it's got a lion on it, so there's your lion's heart. And the third one is, of course, Widow's Wail, which correlates very directly to Nissa Nissa's cry of anguish and ecstasy, and it's a red and black sword now, giving a direct call out to the red sword Lightbringer. So that does seem to be a parallel with Joffrey's three swords. There you go. There's a little tidbit for your... Thanks for correcting me. You correct me and you get a theory. Look, it's like shake me on like a tree and some more theories fall out. Shout out to Treeface. Behind me here. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Pringles Jingles. I think Varys is egg. What? The first description in A Game of Thrones is like an egg. Arya, after the tunnels, mentions clout around the ear. Oh, that's funny. I don't think that works. Egg would be... Well, besides dying in Summerhall, Egg would be way too old. He would be like Old Nan old. Maester Aemon old. So that doesn't work. However, Varys is definitely bald as an egg. And the thing is, that's all moon egg symbolism. Remember, the moon was an egg. Shout out to my moon shirt here with my dragon glass pendant here, threatening to insert itself into the moon. Watch out. The moon was an egg, gave birth to dragons. Egg is an egg that becomes a dragon. Varys is bald as an egg. He's also a secret Blackfire who's going to produce a dragon, Aegon. So I think that's the pattern, not that Egg and Varys are like directly linked. They're both referring back to the same symbolic concept. But let me look for the second of your comments, if it is up yet. Second part. Egg hears blood ravens sending dwarves up the shaft. And, right, yeah, at the Mystery Night at White Walls. And Varys does something similar in a Storm of Swords. Varys has a deep hinting speech about Aegon with small folk in A Dance with Dragons. Yeah, I think these are still parallels, not like, because there's no real way to connect Egg to Varys. Egg wasn't practicing any sort of magic that would sustain his life unnaturally, like, say, Melisandre. We've got no evidence that he'd be working a glamour. Even if he was working a glamour, he's 100 years old. Varys is moving about, is pretty spry, posing as Rugen the jailer and stuff. So Varys has his own backstory that Illyrio knows and corroborates. So none of that really works. But those parallels that you notice are very interesting. And George could certainly be evoking, like the cloud around the ear stuff. He's either just using that phrase for familiarity, or he's wanting us to make a comparison to Egg for some reason. I just don't know what it is. It's not that they're the same people, but there certainly could be an intentional comparison there. Yes. Thank you for that super chat. And then let me see here. All right, that's looking good. Back over to the PayPals. From Shadow Demon. I think Sandor will kill Gregor, but as an act of mercy, not revenge. Yeah, it would be mercy. Ungregor is pretty horrible. Yeah, Gregor's current existence has to be horrible, exactly. I think Sandor will free his brother from bondage as an act of forgiveness and compassion. It won't be the Hound killing the mountain, it will be Sander choosing to give a gift of love and peace to Gregor instead of letting him suffer. So it's kind of like Clegane Bowl, but in a good way. Yeah, not advocating for euthanizing people, but Gregor's undead. He's not a people anymore, really. So this is, yeah, it's totally. Yeah, I don't think anyone takes that as an endorsement of euthanasia. But I do, this is an interesting idea. It makes a lot more sense because, like, Clegane Bowl, as the way it happened on the show, doesn't work for where Sander is in the book. The whole point of Sander's arc is obviously letting go of the anger. You know, it's Sansa's prayer to the mother, you know, still the anger, gentle them, let them know mercy, etc., etc. So that seems to be the arc that Sander's on, and it wouldn't really make sense for him to come out of the Quiet Isle and go right back to rage killing his brother. So if he were to fight his brother, it should be in a more reluctant circumstance. Some people have suggested maybe he'll be produced as the champion of the faith to fight Gregor at a trial by combat for Cersei. I could see that, I guess. But this also makes more sense that at some point he'll give the gift of mercy that he asked for from Arya and didn't get, giving him a second chance at life, is that he'll give that gift of mercy to Gregor. I like this a lot. Thematically, that works a lot better than Clegane Bowl, as pictured on the show. So, well done, Shadow Demon. Well done. Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, totally. James D., who sent in the thing about the European folklore eating fish and dragons, his comment was cut off, so he sent in another PayPal to finish his comment. So I'm going to read it. Thanks, buddy. In Irish myth, Fionn Mac... Oh, man, I don't know how to pronounce any of this stuff. Fionn Mac Cumail eats the salmon of wisdom and gains knowledge and the ability to speak to animals. So obviously it's a similar version of that same story. All these myths, along with several others, are categorized in the Arne Thompson Uther Index as ATU 763, or ATU 673, excuse me, the White Serpent's Flesh. So this is some sort of, this is a book I should look up. It's obviously a categorization of mythemes, and this one is called the White Serpent's Flesh. I think George is using the symbol deliberately. Having a stomach full of pale snakes is an image parallel to stealing the fire of the gods. Yeah, that makes sense. The Weirwood magic is the fire of the gods. It's directly called out as that in the Grey King myth, where he taunts the storm god, and the storm god sets fire to the tree that is representing the Weirwood tree, and then Grey King gains the fire of the gods from the burning tree. So yes, that all makes sense. Naga also seems connected to this, but it's a sea dragon. Ah, thank you, yes. Which fits pretty well into the snake dragon salmon imagery. The Grey King killed it and used its bones to build his great hall. But what did he do with all that delicious magical flesh? Surely he ate it. Awesome. Well done. That's cool. Very good. So, of course, the sea dragon myth is a place where we see, again, sea snakes and white dragons and things crossed with weirwood symbolism. The Grey King kills the sea dragon and makes a hall of her ribs. But once we see Naga's ribs, we see that they're actually petrified weirwood. And it turns out that it looks like, to me, it's the ribbing of an upside-down boat hull. The Grey King was said to have made a boat from weirwood, from the wood of Ig, a white tree that eats people's flesh. And of course, that's just calling out Yggdrasil as a influence of the weirwoods. So the weirwoods, Grey King makes a boat out of the weirwoods. Then we see his boat on the shore. And the Vikings, of course, used to do that. They would take the hull of a longship, flip it over, and use it as the structure of a long haul. So George is pulling this right out of Viking culture and Scandinavian history and saying, oh yeah, Grey King, he made a weirwood boat, then he flipped it over and made a long haul and lived in it. So the thing is, but this is slaying the sea dragon. So we know the sea dragon on some level represents weirwood because its body turns out to be a weirwood boat. But it's also said that the Grey King made a throne and a crown out of the teeth of the sea dragon, and the bones of the sea dragon. But of course, if the sea dragon is weirwood, then that makes more sense. He's got a weirwood throne and a weirwood crown. So now he sounds like a green seer. Bloodraven has weirwood roots wrapped around his head, almost like a crown. And you could imagine green seer kings making crowns out of cut weirwood as well in the past. That's probably where the driftwood crown tradition comes from. The original Ironborn, or at least the Grey King, being some sort of green seer. And so the driftwood crowns are made in emulation of that. So there's all this stuff. And then Sea Dragon Point, a peninsula of land, has lots of weirwood circles and also tall pines for building ships. So the ship is the other part of the metaphor because the weirwoods are like ships to sail the astral sea or the green sea. So there's your watery green seer metaphor coming in. So it's great symbolism. Check out the Weirwood Compendium 6 through 10. All the stuff about the sea dragon, the green dragon, Dany in the Dothraki Sea. It's like literally 12 hours worth of symbolism on this. Like there's so much. Yes, petrified wood doesn't float. Well, that's why they flip. That's the thing. If you make a weirwood boat, it's got a limited lifespan of only about 500 years or so. And after that, you've got to drag that sucker on shore before it gets too heavy and flip it over so you can make a hull out of it. Because once it petrifies, it doesn't float. That's right. What else floats apart from ducks? Apples. No, wait. Apart from, oh God. Never mind. I don't need to remember the Monty Python routine right now. But I do owe you an entire theremin concert. I've been forgetting the theremin this whole time. It's horrible. Very small rocks, yes. Churches. Petrified weirwood. No. So yes, in conclusion, yes, it strengthening your theory. To go back to James D, the idea of the Grey King and the Sea Dragon mythology again shows the white snakes, the pale snakes being associated with weirwood stuff. So yeah, I think you've got a pretty strong case for all of that stuff. So well done. And of course, we know that George is using European and Irish folklore. Yeah, exactly. A lot. Celtic folklore, Germanic folklore, all of that stuff. So on screen is Space Monkey's super chat. I think the mountain's head was removed. It was supposedly sent to Dorne, and some other dead character's head is on the body. So the main theory about this is that it's Robb's head. The phrase would potentially have sent Robb's head to Tywin to prove that he was dead, right? And they did not have Robb's head when they paraded his corpse. They stuck his wolf head on his body. So it could be Robb's head. Another theory is that it's the head of one of the dwarves that Cersei had seized. So it's probably one of those two if it's not the mountain's head. He is called Robert Strong. So if it's Robb's head, Robb is named after King Robert. So yeah, I don't know what evidence for it other than just what I said. But it kind of, like I said, it kind of makes sense that they would have sent the head back to them. I just don't know what's the point of using Robb's head to make the zombie? You could use any head. Maybe there's no head in there. There probably is a head, I guess. That would look too weird if there was no head. But there is that vision, of course. Bran sees the shadow of what appears to be the mountain, and behind his visor is only black blood and darkness. So it's strongly suggesting that the head is gone, or at least that the person isn't there anymore. Oh, James D with another one, adding on. Oh, you must have sent this before we started the stream, or as we started the stream. Yes, so he's mentioning the weirwood roots are described as white worms and snakes, and the one in Bloodraven's eye is a worm. Yes, so just what I was saying. The green seers are a perfect parallel to the hero of the Flesh of the White Snake myth, in that their bellies are full of white snakes and they can talk to animals. Yeah, totally. So, yeah, the weirwoods are a nice magical combination of symbolism. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So, there you go. Are there any Patchface moments where he eats pale snakes, dragons, or fish? Let's see. Well, we'd have to look in his rhymes. He talks about the old fish eating the young fish. Under the sea, the crows are white as snow. I can't think of him eating anything, but I'm just going off the top of my head there, so I could be missing something. Hey, Alex Mars. Are we interpreting John's dreams? No, I've just taken we're doing a Q&A here. Let's see here. So I think I'm just double checking. It looks like I'm all caught up. I don't see any that I have. Oh, nope. Take it back. Let's see. Fluencer Flux, a Squisher member, said, I have been thoroughly enjoying the Essos content. Thank you for that. How do you find such wonderful art for all your videos and live streams? Man, I just look for it. I search far and wide. Speaking of art, let me go ahead and bring up the Fisher Queen's art that I have set aside for you. Yes. So, I found some art after the last live stream that I really wish I had had during the live stream. So this is there's a project called Unseen Westeros, and I've made acquaintances with Sven Sauer, the guy who runs it, and it's a collective, not a collective, but it's a project, and he's recruited a lot of different artists to work on it. So this one is by Sven Sauer and Fabian Schemp. And there's a lot of art from Unseen Westeros that you've seen, like all that Stygian stuff and the Five Forts artwork, all that Yeen artwork. A lot of that was Unseen Westeros. So this is the Fisher Queen's floating city here. There's 3 pictures of it. And again, I would have shown this in the Fisher Queen's live stream, but I forgot. Or not, I forgot. I hadn't found these yet. Sorry. Here is another one. Here are some people approaching the floating city of the Fisher Queen. So you can see it's the same thing. There's the city in the water. There's the people approaching it. And here's another overhead shot. So you can see the Silver Sea and the River Sarn. Very cool, right? Again, Fabian Schemp and Sven Sauer. Now, the image that I used for the title, the cover of the last stream originally, I thought it was Sarmel, and it's not Sarmel. This is titled Rhoynar, so I don't know which Rhoynish city is, but this is intended to be a Rhoynish city, not our Sarnorian city, for what it's worth. And this one is by Benjamin Schulte. I was thinking about doing a Rhoynar stream. Would you guys like that? Sort of in the vein of the other ones that we've been doing recently. You know, Karth, Five Forts. I feel like the Rhoynar have definitely got enough material to talk about. This is Coriane. This is another Rhoynish city. Probably use this one for the cover of said Rhoynish stream. And I got a couple close-ups from this one. There's a close-up of some Rhoynar hanging out on their little balcony, taking it in. Right there, yeah. So that's the wide shot. Pretty dope. So there you are. Just wanted to share that real quick. Let me go back. I'll leave the Fisher Queens up for a second because it's just pretty sick. Yes, please, Rhoynar. Yes. Yeah, man. Yep, that's a good one. Yeah, Ulthos. I wish I could tell you about Ulthos, but there's nothing. We don't know nothing about it. They haven't told us anything. So, and then there's Dur Courier, who said, "What do you think about the idea that the land of always winter is directly connected to the very east of Essos?" Well, that's one we've talked about a few times recently. It's hard to say much other than it might be connected. We know that in the long night happened across the world, or at least the northern hemisphere, and it was all over Essos. They had a long night too. And the records in the east speak of the Lion of Night's demons coming out and ravaging everyone during the long night. So, what are the demons of the Lion of Night? We do not know, but they came from beyond the Five Forts, which is like the Grey Waste. The Grey Waste is a frozen desert. So, potentially these demons could be others, or they could be some other type of demon shadows, created by the Bloodstone Emperor. That is basically just plays. That's a parallel to the others, but there, if you want, you could think that you go a little further off the map and it wraps back around. The way that ice caps work, ice conglomerates onto land much easier than it does to water. Then ice shelf can go out over water, but you'll only get an ice cap. No, I take that back. For example, the North Pole ice caps. There's no. It's sort of clinging to the northern lands of Canada and Russia, but there's no actual land on the North Pole. So the ice cap sort of expands and melts every year, and it contracts a lot. On Antarctica has been frozen over for straight up 50 million years because there's a huge continent there. And so it supports all that ice. It accumulates the ice. And during the ice ages in the past, the ice has even connected from Antarctica up to the southern tip of South America. And then the south part of South America has been glaciated temporarily. So when we talk about wrapping around to the lands of always winter, we do need some land. Like, it's not going to reach all the way across the Shivering Sea to Essos. That's probably too far for any ice caps to reach. So if we want a connection to the lands of always winter, it seems like the land in Westeros goes up to the North Pole, potentially. It looks like it does. So we would need, over there in Essos, we would need for it to go a little further north to make an ice bridge up to the lands of always winter. But it could happen. And if George wants us to think about the others invading the entire world instead of just Westeros, that's how we would do it. And that would be the whole point, is that the others don't just afflict Westeros, but the entire world. So let's see here. I believe that brings me up to date. Yes, it does. Which means it's time for a 420 break for Mr. Dave. Yes, it is. 1 second. Let me just mute this here. And you can enjoy the Fisher Queen art. Although I will change it so we can enjoy a different one. How about that one? Yeah, for my squishers that have access to my special emojis, let me get the Praise Garth emojis. There you go. 420 at 103. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. 420 somewhere on some timeline. Ah, yes. So, guys, let me ask you a question. I'll just throw this out. We've been talking a lot, again, about the others and a connection to the Weirwoods. And I'm going to bust that wide open in the Ice Spiders video. But let me just ask you, what do you think it means that there are 2 Weirwood thrones in the Eyrie? The Weirwood throne, when we first see it in the Eyrie, we don't know the significance of a Weirwood throne yet. But now that we've read the whole series and we've seen that Weirwood thrones mean green seers, we've seen Bran and Bloodraven in a Weirwood throne. We've seen Beric sitting amongst Weirwood roots in a cave, and he obviously has all the symbolic parallels. I don't know why I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable there, but yes, symbolic parallels between Bloodraven and Beric, which of course are part of the whole Azor Ahai was a green seer thing. So anytime we see a Weirwood throne symbol, we have to think it's an important thing. So why are there Weirwood thrones in the Eyrie? The Eyrie, of course, as far as symbolism goes, it's kind of coded as a big ice temple. It's got white marble that looks, Sansa says it looks like a castle made of ice. The marble even has blue veins in it, just like the others have white flesh with blue blood. Nissa Nissa is a Night's Queen figure. She's both a Nissa Nissa and a Night's Queen figure. She shows us that transformation, apparently. So there's all this other symbolism. It's basically like an others temple. And then there's these two Weirwood thrones, but the Weirwood thrones are dead, right? They're not living thrones. And it has a god's wood with no gods. They can't get a Weirwood to take root in the Eyrie. So what is this about? Obviously, it's some sort of clue that there's something having to do with Weirwoods going on with the others, right? Oh, I like this from Paul. I'll put this up on the screen. I think it alludes to the dead magic of the Veil, because the Weirwood throne is not living, like north of the wall with Bran. The Andals of the Winged Knight may have been air magic that has vanished. Okay. I think that's the literal interpretation. And where was this other? Oh, from Will. But so what does that represent, though, is my question. If the Eyrie represents the land of always winter, the land of the others, the territory of the others, what does it mean that there are two Weirwood thrones? So Will Ferran says, Dany and Jon must rule in the lands of always winter. So this is a potential endgame scenario that I've thought about. The two thrones on a base level, the correct answer was Night's King and Night's Queen. They are the creators of the others, I believe. And so I think that seeing two thrones inside of an others temple suggests there are two rulers of the others side of the weirwoodnet. I think it's a clue that there's obviously such a thing as the other side of the weirwoodnet, which apparently seems to be dead and disconnected from the living side, just as the weirwoods won't take root in the Vale. But the idea that Dany and Jon might have to rule in the lands of always winter, well, this kind of gets back to the idea that sacrificing to the others is what's needed to pacify them. That the stolen baby that became a Stark was taken from them, and that they're owed a Stark, that may be Jon. Nissa Nissa herself, as we've been talking about, seems to have died and gone into the weirwoodnet, and possibly become Night's Queen, who might be sending the others back out of the weirwoodnet. So yeah, that's what I think that's about. But there's more there. Yeah, I think. But it's just one of those things. Like it's one of the first obvious symbols that we should think about something having to do with the others in the weirwoodnet. So what if the Heart of Winter is a portal? Jackie says. Well, the weirwoods are the portals, right? They enable you to move your consciousness around. So they're kind of like a portal for your spirit, at least. Yeah, but that door symbolism of the weirwoods, it is tantalizing, isn't it? I don't want to spoil my video, so I shall say no more. Let's see. Edward asks, so we've heard nothing from Starfall. Is it possible for proof or confirmation of R plus L equals J from there? Yes, certainly. All kinds of secrets could be at Starfall. The true purpose of Dawn, the history of Dawn and the long night could be there. Absolutely. Absolutely. What happened to Ashara Dane? Yeah, RLJ. Absolutely. That stuff could be there too. Um, so, taking symbolism aside, the reason why there are Weirwood thrones in the Eyrie is because Weirwood conveys authority and power as a symbol. Like even the Faith of the Seven, the High Septon has a Weirwood throne. Just like in the Reach, the Faith of the Seven has stained glass windows of Garth in the church. Any religion has to adapt when it travels. If it, when people migrate and assimilate, the local religions and the new religion will mix. And so Weirwood retains, even if the worship of the old gods is not common in the South, Weirwood is still looked at as a holy or a sacred object. So special things are made out of it. There you go. And that is why they made Weirwood thrones in the Vale, possibly to make up for the fact that they couldn't plant an actual Weirwood. Because, of course, all this was before the Andals came, when the first Valemen were setting up shop there. So the Faceless Men, Paul is asking about the House of Black and White and all the Weirwood there. I don't think there's a direct connection between the Faceless Men and the old gods, but because like the symbolism, it's just so obviously symbolism. Like the kindly old man has a worm in his socket, just like Bloodraven has a root that's a worm in his socket. The Weirwood Doors, they have chairs made out of Weirwood instead of Weirwood thrones. They are operating in the realm of death. Arya is a child that is running around inside of this Weirwood temple. Then she goes out like an assassin. So I think it's basically just a very detailed symbolic parallel to the inside of the weirwoodnet. So then I will say though, and I have said this before in the Winds of Winter previews that I did with Quinn's ideas about the Faceless Men, called the Murder Bank. I do think the Faceless Men are aware of magic and they treat it as a real and powerful thing. I do believe they're aware of Arya's skin changer ability. I believe that's probably why they recruited her. It does seem like they recruited her. I think they recruited her. Let me back up. The Faceless Men know magic is real. They are probably using some amount of magic to do whatever they do with the face swapping. They are famous library thieves. They steal books from libraries, which means they have all the ancient knowledge. And so they've also been, they know about the wildlings at Hardhome. So they would have gotten all these tales about whites and the others from them. So in short, the Faceless Men know all about, they know all about magic. They know all about the struggle against the others. And the way that their religion dictates that they would see the whites as the ultimate abomination. They revere the god of death. All men must die. But the whites are like undead. So to me, the ultimate horror to the Faceless Men would be the whites. So I tend to think that they're anti-white, if you will, and that they're training Arya literally to become a weapon against the others. So I think they will potentially try to help Dany, who is anti-slavery, just like the Braavosi, and that the Faceless Men are thinking about the long game, if you will. So if nothing else, they would see the whites as an abomination. Yes, disappearing, disapproving glances from the librarians about the book stealing. Why did this come so big on the screen? Gee whiz, that's weird. Okay, Shadow Demon says 5 months of Squisher membership. Are there any plot points you think George will leave unanswered as a way to illustrate that we don't always get the answers in real life? Probably, but I think most of the important stuff will be answered somewhat, at least. He'll give us a range of things to speculate on, but I don't think he'll leave too much unanswered. It depends on what you're asking about. you know? Like he could leave a hint that magic might come back, but not let us know if it will or not, or something like that. So we think the others are gone, but maybe they're not, you know. But no, I think he'll sew up all, you know, all the major stuff. Henbot. I'll put this one down here. It'd be kind of cool if the castle was the center of power for the White Walkers. Like how the castle in Dragonbone Chair built on top of the old castle. Okay, well, again, I would encourage you to think about the Eyrie as a symbolic proxy. The Eyrie itself is not a magically important place. It's not a final battle place. I believe it is symbolism. So we have to look at the Eyrie as a model for the Heart of Winter. Just like the House of the Undying, when we see the blue heart and the cold blue shadow entities, those represent the others in the Heart of Winter. Dany goes in and burns it with dragonfire. That's what she needs to do something similar to at the Heart of Winter, right? So when we look at the Eyrie, we have to think about what it's implying for the Heart of Winter. So in Dragonbone Chair, they build a castle on top of... See, it's Winterfell, I think, that is the better parallel for the castle in Dragonbone Chair. And Gray Areas talked about that. So it's the crypts down below Winterfell that have secrets, you know, waiting to come up. So that's... You need to check out the stream I did with Grey Waste Tim. If you haven't, not you, Henbot, but just you, the viewer. If you haven't watched the Secrets of the Crypts, Crypts of Winterfell stream with Tim, Grey Waste Tim, then you should. That was a good one. But now, when we think about the Eyrie, again, I think the implication here, like if we're thinking about the Eyrie as an Other's castle, the thing that's jumping out is the fact that there are Weirwood thrones and there's a Weirwood door. And as I'm going to talk about in the Ice Spiders video, when you open up the moon door, the first time it's opened, what we see back there is black darkness and cold, uncaring stars. And the cold winds rush in. So it's almost like the others are watching through the Weirwood door from their ice temple. So again, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I think that they may be able to break down that barrier that is bifurcating the Weirwood net and essentially invade the entire Weirwood net, just as the wall will break down and they will invade Westeros. And Henbot says yes, they've watched that stream. So good. Very good. And so then all the Giant's Lance, Snowstorm, Avalanche symbolism and foreshadowing in the Eyrie is probably more talking about the long night and the moon meteors that will bring a new winter. So Mbox is suggesting that perhaps the Weirwood net roots, the power of the Weirwood net is at the heart of winter and is controlled by some great evil green seer other. Well, so that would be Azor Ahai, essentially. That would be the great other. That's Azor Ahai's spirit inside the Weirwood net, but now he's stuck on the frozen side. That may have been, see, the partition, the whole point of the partition may have been to isolate Azor Ahai. That could have been Night's Queen trapping Azor Ahai and containing him from the other side of the Weirwood net. The greens, the Weirwoods have all that trap symbolism, the fish trap symbolism, the fish garth symbolism. So it's just a matter of who's trapping who. Lots of people are trapped in there, apparently. It's a whole party going on. So yeah, I do think that there is... I think that Night King, whatever Night's King is going to be in the books, is this character. He is an opposite to Bloodraven. He's an Odin-like figure, but colored in the symbolism of ice. So yeah, that should be dead Azor Ahai's spirit. But I think that he's inside the Weirwood net, as opposed to physically. I don't know, maybe there's a Azor Ahai skeleton on a Weirwood throne somewhere. That'd be dope. Just frozen over. So guys, yeah, let me know if there's any buffering. I'm streaming late at night. Occasionally there's little slowdowns or gaps at night. So if there is, Hopefully it'll catch up real quick, and that's all it is. But it looks mostly good on my end. But please keep me keep me abreast. Oh, that comment is a few minutes old. All right. Well, hopefully it's looking good for everyone. So yes, the weirwood net, destroying the weirwood net could be a way to destroy the others, but I don't think that's where this is going. I think it's more like we've got to give the weirwood net back to the others. I think the others originally were the Greenseer spirits who inhabited the weirwood net, and it was essentially stolen from them. And the whole point of having Bran do a download where, essentially the weirwood net goes into Bran's head. He downloads the hive mind from the trees, is to get it out of the trees. Both because the others can get to it now, and because giving the weirwood net back to the others, I think, is part of the solution. That would be a resolution to the original sin of the invasion of the weirwood net, essentially. Mr. GMC recovery vehicle. There we go. I had to just piece that one together. The meteor impact and the destruction of the moon affected the orbit of Planetos and contributed to the first long night and subsequent long seasons. So yes and no. I tried to spell this out in the Lightbringer series, but anytime we talk about my moon meteor theory, we have to, of course, deal with the level of realism question. George has said the long night is not a question of physics, that people have proposed binary star systems and things like that. And he just kind of waves it. He says, no, it's magic. You'll find out there's a magical reason. However, George's magic isn't totally abstract. It's usually built on nature stuff, fire and ice, eclipses, meteors. The long night is basically just a magical version of an impact winter. So, obsidian is volcanic glass, and so it has fire magic power inside of it. So he basically takes scientific ideas and nature ideas and then uses that as a starting point to make magic. So, in a sense, the long night is kind of like an impact winter, but an impact winter, it doesn't go much further than that. We're not supposed to think about how big a meteor would cloud the sky for how many years, would kill so many people, and all that stuff. So, in theory, yes, he could be loosely thinking about, well, if there was two moons and one of them got blown up, then that's going to screw up the seasons. And in our world, the seasons are, governed by the tilt of the planet. So he's imagining, magically, whatever magic equilibrium is going on with the moons was disrupted when one of the moons was blown up. Now, my more specific theory about that is that just as everything is kind of ice and fire in the story, perhaps the moons were ice and fire, and perhaps the moons themselves were sources of magic. And so when the fire moon, quote unquote, got busted up and pieces of its corpse, essentially, the moon meteors, then fell to Earth, we have all kinds of problems now. So the balance between ice and fire is messed up, right? You could look at fire as having been corrupted. It's been killed. But now it's also infecting the planet. Those black moon meteors, to the extent it's associated with the oily black stone or is the same as the oily black stone, it's highly toxic. It poisons the land. It creates the shadow at Ashai, the castle at Yin that the plants won't grow near, the jungle won't grow near. So this poisoned fire moon, if you will, was never supposed to be on Earth. It's supposed to be up in the sky. So I think the weirwoods might be mediating that poisoning of the Earth. It could be that Westeros would look like Ashai, except for that the weirwoods are mediating that poison. There's a lot of symbolism to suggest that. But again, I don't know how far George is thinking about all this stuff and how literally he's taking it. Like, I don't think the answer is to slingshot all the oily black stone off of the planet to get rid of it, right? That's not, I don't think we need to pray over the oily black stone and remove the curse. That would be silly. But we might find black meteor stone at the Heart of Winter or on the Isle of Faces, and so it could play a part in whatever magic is going on there that will primarily be, focused through the Weirwoods. But in some sense, yes, the meteors disrupted the cycle of the seasons. I think it has to do with the whole ice and fire moon idea, but that's the kind of thing where I don't know how much. Well, Georgia said we'll get an answer to the seasons thing in the story, so we actually should find out. Maybe a better question is, how would he reveal that? Obviously, Bran can see images in the Weirwood net of fire crashing down from the sky, but I don't know if Bloodraven's going to be like, well, Bran, once there were 2 moons in the sky, Bran. One moon was associated with fire. Let's call it a fire moon. And the other was an ice moon. I don't think that's probably going to happen. But that'd be cool. Yeah, so there is a movie called Moonfall coming out that features the actor that plays Sam. What's his name? Really cool fellow. I don't know why I forgot his name. I know this guy's name. Anyway, the Sam Tarly actor is in this movie Moonfall saying, something's wrong with the moon. So I'm totally going to cut that into like some Game of Thrones. So it's like Jon talking to Sam and Sam's telling Jon the moon is messed up. I will make that happen. But of course we need to pray over the oily black stone, Jackie says. Henbot says, do you think ADD is putting a super chat on the screen and then just like going off on a different tangent? Do you think we'll get any sort of Dane POV? Or did George say no new POVs? I think he said that, but I think he said that because other people say that he said that. I don't know. Do you think a Dane crossover? There's a typo here. I'm not sure what you were saying. Can you clarify, Henbot? What were you asking about a Dane crossover? So I don't think we'll get a Dane POV. I think that's why we are... I think that's why we're going to get the POV of Aryo Hota, and he's being sent to Beard Darkstar in his den so that we can see what's going on with Darkstar. That is probably how we'll get some insight into Starfall. Let's see. Oh, tournament. A Dane crossover, a tournament. I still don't understand the question. What are you asking about Danes and tournaments? Yes, Alex Mars, I would say that the Arm of Dorn is a Moon Meteor incident. Check out Timeline Heresies, the Pact and the Hammer of the Waters. But yeah, that's like my headcanon. I'm pretty sure of that. If I'm sure of anything. A tournament taking place nearby, near Starfall? The only tournament I know about is one in the Vale with the Winged Knights and all that. I mean, Fagon might have a tournament once he takes King's Landing or something, and I do expect Darkstar's plotline to join up with, with Fagon's there, but... Yeah, the Hammer of the Waters has to be a Moon Meteor. It makes so much sense. It makes sense of the myth, the legends about the Pact, and the blood sacrifice on the Isle of Faces, and during God's Grief. It's a very nice knitting together of stuff. And there's symbolic clues. There's logistical clues. It's real strong. Also, there's an old Bloodstone Compendium episode called the mountain and the viper and the mountain versus the viper and the hammer of the waters, that has more of the symbolic evidence. There's even stuff like characters who represent the moon getting their arms broken to show you that moon meteors broke the arm of Dorn. Oberyn jabs Gregor with his sun spear in the arm. And then the arm of Dorn is next to a place called Sun Spear. But of course, the moon meteors drank the fire of the sun and then fell like swords or spears. So a sun spear is just a moon meteor symbol. So George named the city next to the arm Sun Spear, next to the broken arm. Then he has Gregor get hit in the arm with a sun spear while he's blocking out the sun as if he were a moon eclipsing the sun. So check out the mountain and the viper and the hammer of the waters. That's the jam. The link is in the chat. Miss Minty has dropped it in there. Yeah, Edward Martin is talking about the betrayal of the Amethyst Empress. That's one of the clues about the true nature of the Azor Ahai Nissa Nissa story. I think John Bradley is the actor. Thank you. We're told that Azor sacrificed Nissa Nissa. Nissa Nissa went willingly. It was a heroic thing to save the world. But if you notice, the moon is cracking when he stabs Nissa Nissa. And the moon cracking is how you get moon meteors, and that's how you get a long night. So this tale is turned around. And the murder of Nissa Nissa was just that. It was a murder. It was a blood magic sacrifice. It's the same thing as the Bloodstone Emperor murdering his sister, the Amethyst Empress, with Dany paralleling both Nissa Nissa and the Amethyst Empress. So, yes, the thing about it is that this figure, Amethyst Empress / Nissa Nissa, is a child of the forest or a green woman. She is a weirwood woman. That's all the parallel figures have that symbolism. Check out the Weirwood Goddess podcast series that I mentioned earlier. So what that means is that Azor Ahai is killing a magical woman tied to the weirwood net. That is how he breaks into the weirwood net. He uses her blood to power that magic. So when it talks about Nissa Nissa's blood tempering Lightbringer, Lightbringer is just a symbol of the fire of the gods. The weirwood magic is also the fire of the gods. So now you have, again, committing a blood magic murder to gain the power of the gods. That's actually the weirwood net. That brings you back to the hammer of the waters myth, where blood sacrifice brought down the hammer. So that's all that is. It's blood sacrifice bringing down the moon meteors. So... and let me show some cool art while I'm talking about Nissa Nissa as a child of the forest. She may be both Valyrian and child of the forest, meaning, Amethyst Empress should look Valyrian, judging from Dany's dream of the Gemstone Emperors, one of them having amethyst eyes. And so I've got a couple of pieces of art that help sort of help you picture this. This is called Mother of Dragons, and it is by Rhodora Jacob. And I think she was just trying to draw an elf-like Dany, but what she came up with is Nissa Nissa, essentially. You can see the cat eyes of the children of the forest, the little horns there. So the thing about the children of the forest is they actually look like lizard people anyway. They have 4-fingered hands with black claws. That's like a lizard. They have slitted cat's eyes, but lizards and snakes often have slitted cat's eyes as well, golden ones. And one of the children of the forest is nicknamed Scales, which means that somewhere on the bodies of the children, they might have some scaly skin. So even though they're presented as woodland elves, they may have lizard DNA. They may have reptilian DNA. The lizard people... if you're talking about the conspiracy theories of the lizard people, they live in caves and they're millions of years old. And that's what the children of the forest are. They're 1 million years old and they live in caves. So the idea of Nissa Nissa being a child of the forest and also a blood of the dragon person may not be as weird of a crossover as it sounds. The entire point of the Great Empire of the Dawn coming to Westeros, halfway around the world, and building a fewstone fortress at Battle Isle is to obtain the magic of Westeros. It flat out says in the World of Ice and Fire that these seafaring traders that built Old Town, did they come to trade and learn the magic of the Children of the Forest? Maybe, we'll never know. But yes, it's suggested that that's why they came. We also know the first Maesters of the Citadel that was founded by the Hightowers, they that was the brother of Uthor, somebody the lame, who had a lame leg, Peleg or Peleg, or what was it? Not Peleg. Who started the Citadel? That's a good trivia. Who was Uthor Hightower's younger brother that started the Citadel? Somebody's got to know. I don't want to look it up. In any case, the first Maesters of the Old Town, they used to talk to the children, and in fact, that's where the first men learned to use ravens as messengers. Originally it was skin changing that they learned from the children. So, yeah, there you go. All of the Azor Ahai dragon stuff from the east actually does intersect with the weirwoods and the Children of the Forest in a few ways. Azor Ahai breaking into the weirwood net, Bloodstone Emperor marrying Amethyst Empress, who was potentially, like I said, a green woman. Nissa Nissa being a green woman or a child of the forest. The lizard people thing with the children. The similarities between the skin changing bond and the dragon bond. So there you go. Alex Mars, I don't know what you're going on about, buddy. Have you been drinking? You seem kind of rowdy. In any case, let's see. Ooh, that's a good question from Paul. Do you think we'll see any new Children of the Forest other than those we have already met? Yes, I think that would be cool. I think that would be cool. I think we're going to see the Isle of Faces, which should have some green men and possibly some children too. And I at least want to see those other 6 a little more. I want Bran to have more conversations with the children. It's Paramore the Twisted. Thank you, Austin Flowers. I think you looked it up, though. It took so long. I think you looked it up. But thank you. Cool. Paramore the Twisted. And it's even, you wonder if he, in fact, was a green seer. Like, we're told that those that marry, when humans and Children of the Forest have a child, the children are often crippled and small, and the birth goes hard for the Children of the Forest women. So Paramore the Twisted, who gathered together magicians and all sorts of people and started the Citadel, you wonder if maybe he was a crossbreed. Also, Uthor Hightower married a daughter of Garth the Green. So that's a suggestion that there was... Uthor Hightower is a great Empire of the Dawn person, and he's marrying the daughter of Garth the Green. So this is actually just another version of Azor Ahai and Nissa Nissa, really. Uthor Hightower, it's obvious dragon symbolism because of Uthor Pendragon, as well as all the dragon myths at the Hightower in the Fewstone Fortress. And he's taking a daughter of Garth. And he's stealing the woman from someone else, too. It's someone else. The Argoth, the stone giant, wins the tournament, and Uthor Hightower steals Maris the Most Fair instead. And of course, Maris the Most Fair, that name evokes Stella Mara, the moon and the ocean, and the horse symbolism and all that. So, yep, more of the same. More of the same. Dragon Lord marrying an elf woman, stealing the elf woman from Garth the Green, stealing the elf woman from her rightful husband. Same story here. Here's the other art. This is by Bella Bergholtz. This is called Dunmer, which is a different bit of folklore. But this looks like sort of a human Child of the Forest hybrid with the blood red eyes. that the green seers have sometimes. So this could be, you know, if you picture red eyes maybe and silver hair, perhaps that's Nissa Nissa. But let me leave this up. I'm going to take another 420 and y'all come look at this for a quick second. Sorry, I didn't want to leave it silent too long, so I came back. Yeah, dark elf. That's exactly right. I mean, you know, if you wanna propose a different scenario, maybe Nissa Nissa wasn't just purely innocent and taken advantage of. Maybe she tricked Azor Ahai or lured him in for some reason. There are a couple of parallels that may suggest that, but I do tend to think that it's mostly Azor Ahai that's the transgressor. Maybe they sinned together. Maybe they did abominable magic together. You have to look at all the various parallels and sort of add them up and see which of the different versions of the story that we see make the most sense. Mostly it's Nissa Nissa being stolen and stuff like that, though. So that's why I tend to think that that's the case. So I don't know how to play music through the stream officially, but I can put it out in my speakers a little bit. So let me give you a little Beers Funk. Little funky Game of Thrones. By the way, this is a Game of Thrones. If you listen for it, you can hear the dun 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 dun. See? Dun 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 dun. Whoops, I didn't mean to close it. Sorry. Rude. Rude. Apologies. Woo dog. Woo. I still haven't added that to my SoundCloud, but I will. I need my party glasses now. That one got me. I felt that. I felt the weirwood stigmata creep across my eyeballs. Cool. Well, rude. I know. Minty hates it when I turn a song off in the middle. I mean, everyone. It is rude. But yeah, we were grooving. Sorry. I'll put it on at the end. I don't want to leave too much dead air. You know, because half the people watching and be like, "Oh, LmL thinks he's so cute playing his bass. Just talk about a song of Ice and Fire, LmL." You know, I'll play it at the end. Okay, so Terra Incognita says, if Nissa Nissa getting stabbed caused a long night, she's definitely a Fisher Queen. That is a great point, and one which I sailed right past last week, because I don't think I was thinking about symbolism. I was just talking logistics. But yes, remember, I talked about the idea of a Fisher King simply is that the king represents the land. If the king is sick, the land is sick, or vice versa. The king takes a wound, the land suffers. That's the Grail King taking that Grail wound, the Dolorous Stroke. That's all Fisher King stuff. Yeah, the birds are quiet because they're asleep. Because it's 1:43 a.m. where I am. So a Fisher Queen, remember I was saying, oh, it's interesting that George has flipped the gender. So now we have a queen represents the land. That makes sense, though, of course. This is just mother goddess stuff. The whole idea of a mother goddess, generally they're associated with the earth, Mother Earth, right? So a Fisher Queen, yes. If Nissa Nissa died, her death signaled the long night, then yes, she is playing the role of a Fisher Queen, exactly. And also the moon itself is the Fisher Queen. Remember, the moon is, a god, woman, wife of sun. So it's a goddess and a queen. Dany parallels the moon. The moon is what breaks and causes the long night. Not only that, the moon meteors fall into the water. I was talking about the swords going into the water, the sea dragon. So the other half of the sea dragon myth is that it's a moon meteor that lands in the water. If the meteors are dragons, the legend of the sea dragon is that it drowned whole islands in its wrath. So that's just a mythical memory of a meteor falling in the ocean near the land or near the shore on the land that would cause tidal waves. Those tidal waves would then drown the land. The sea dragon looks like it's slain because it's a meteor falling from the sky. So it's slain from the sky, then it drowns whole land in its wrath. And so Azor Ahai, essentially, he pulled down the moon and killed Nissa Nissa. He did all this bad shit. We don't know. The moon may have been fallout. I think the point was to get inside the weirwood net. There's a couple of, we had to figure out what the connection is there to the moon and how you steer comets, and maybe he steered the comet with the weirwood net magic. I don't know. That's a whole thing. But the point to the Fisher Queen idea is that the moon and Nissa Nissa both die when the long night falls. So if you want to think about the moon as a goddess and Nissa Nissa as a queen or a goddess, they're embodying this concept. So it's cool. They die, the land suffers, but then there's, the land recovers. A long night doesn't last forever. And just as Dany goes through a death transformation but then gives birth to the dragons, the moon explodes and then creates the moon meteors, one of which seems to have been turned into Lightbringer, which then helped end the long night, right? There's this return. Nissa Nissa seems to be alive inside the weirwood net. She might become Night's Queen. There might be another part there. We still haven't figured that out exactly. But it does seem like the Night's Watch, the green zombies, they're all praying to the weirwood and essentially following the green seers. So I think that's also kind of like Nissa Nissa's revenge. If you look at the Night of the Laughing Trees story, Lyanna is playing the role of a Nissa Nissa or a Night's Queen figure. She does both, who dresses up like a weirwood tree and becomes a warrior. So it just shows you that there's a connection between these magical women and sending warriors out of the weirwood net. Now, the problem is that the Night's Watch are kind of like weirwood warriors because the original Night's Watch were skin changer zombies. And they, again, swear their oaths to the weirwood as if they're praying to the weirwood. And they would have actually prayed to the weirwood. They would have been first men. But then the others also come from the weirwoods. So the others and the Watch, the brothers and the others, of course, we already know they have parallel symbolism. They both have that weirwood connection as well. So, yes. It's a long way of saying that, yes, Nissa Nissa is a Fisher Queen. Now, I don't know if that means she's actually one of the Fisher Queens from the Silver Sea. Because, again, this could just be a symbolic parallel, where the Fisher Queens of the Silver Sea story is just another version of George giving us hints about Nissa Nissa. But, of course, Amanda Crowfood's daughter, from the very excellent YouTube channel called The Disputed Lands, which most of you guys have checked out, has a very cool theory that Nissa Nissa was an actual Fisher Queen from the Silver Sea. So check that out if you want to indulge in that theory. It's been a while since I've watched that one, so I don't remember the main points of it. But all of Amanda's theories are at least somewhat compelling, if not very compelling. So definitely check that out. And yes, if you want to support the program, you can send in questions via PayPal. The link is below. Having a good time here. Probably going to go just a little bit longer. And we're running on, yeah, about an hour and 45. So yeah, I'm definitely going to wrap it up before 2 hours. So last call for PayPals and Super Chats, or you can just ask your question in the chat. I'm a humble man. I don't have money pouring out of my pocket, so I empathize with those of you in the chat. Don't have the extra budget for PayPal. I get it. I know how it is. Follow me on Twitter. See my rants about capitalism. In any case. I am really interested in this whole Nissa Nissa Weirwood connection, because this is kind of where it all comes together. We've got ice magic and fire magic and Weirwood magic, and we're trying to figure out how it all comes together. The White Walkers are connected to the Weirwoods, but then the dragons and the fire magic, it's kind of off on the side. So figuring out this whole, Nissa Nissa being Child of the Forest and Azor High breaking into the Weirwood net, this is where the fire and the dragons comes into the picture. And it was actually, like I said, I think what happens is, essentially, the dragons, Azor High, invade the tree, and that kicks out the tree spirits that become the White Walkers. So the dragons created the White Walkers, essentially. And so it's the equal and opposite reaction kind of a thing. So great comment, Tara. And again, that's what we talked about, the silver sea, itself is a moon symbol. It's a mirror. It's an ocean. The moon is a mirror. It reflects the light of the sun and controls the tides. So the symbolism is extensive there. Yeah. Almost 5 a.m. on the East Coast. Yeah, shout out if you're up right now on the East Coast. Rocking hard. Going hard like me. I stay up till 5 a.m. working on shit. This ice spider video is going to be awesome. I think I was a little baked when I wrote it or recorded it or both or something. It had a lot of deviations, so I had to edit some of those out just to keep it moving. So we're definitely going to follow up the ice spider video with a whole nother live stream to take a bunch of those further. So... Welcome, Hinoko. Catching me from the east. Yeah, I'm trying to do these late night streams to catch some of you guys in different time zones. That's the idea. So only going to go another 10 or 15 minutes, but if you want to get a question in, you can certainly do that. The Seven and the Church of Starry Wisdom, Corella is asking about. So... there's a lot. Okay, what I think is happening is that the Starry Wisdom people have simply infiltrated the faith. But what's interesting is that the Andals in Andalos don't have nearly the developed faith that they have once they get to Westeros. It's in a very proto form before they come to Westeros. And that makes sense. It was some 4,000 years ago or whatever. So at some point... the faith of the Seven matured and developed into what we see here. And so potentially that development could have been influenced by Starry Wisdom cult. I do like the idea that Starry Wisdom cult is influencing other religions like Relorism. And Marwyn the Mage is a Starry Wisdom cultist. He's in Old Town. He's obviously not a member of the faith, but he's in Old Town at the Citadel. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were members of the faith that were Starry Wisdom cultists. That's almost a given, I feel like. Now, yeah, Steven, if you've got requests for future streams or videos, absolutely. I love ideas about that. I mean, sometimes even I run out of ideas. We don't know when Wins is coming out. So yeah, share it in the Facebook group. That's a great place for that. Totally. So what was I saying? The Faith of the Seven, if you go to the Starry Sept, it looks like a Starry Wisdom cult kind of temple. It's made of black marble, the one in Old Town. And when you go in there, they light little candles everywhere to simulate the starry sky. So the Starry Wisdom cultists, they sing to the stars atop the scrying tower. The Faith of the Seven builds a black temple, puts a bunch of candle stars in it, and then they sing their hymns inside the temple. But it's almost like they're singing to the stars. So there you go. There's at least a symbolic connection, but I don't know. The thing is that the Faith of the Seven mostly has ice symbolism. So you have to go to thinking about the others and where the connection is to the others. But as far as the actual conspiracy of the faith being influenced by Starry Wisdom cult, it is possible. Because like I said, it developed in Westeros quite a bit from where it started off as. Someone asking about the name change, in case you didn't hear the streams explaining that. Basically, I'm going to use David Lightbringer as a pen name as I start to write books. And so I just wanted to get it going. I was curious. I didn't change my name entirely because I was of this, but I was curious if I was losing some amount of exposure because of the name Lucifer. People reporting my channel, or just the algorithm thinking that it's Satanism and that it's controversial when it's actually not. So I changed my name just to see if there was a difference. There really hasn't. I mean, I've been on a steady, slow growth pattern, and that's pretty much kept up. So it's not like I saw a big jump when I changed the name, but basically it's going to be my working professional pen name going forward. David is my real name. And then Lightbringer is, I kept the Lightbringer because I like it and I've gotten used to it. And yeah, it's rebranding. You can still call me LmL. This is an Ask LmL About Your Theories stream. So it's not like don't call him Lucifer anymore. He hates that. It's not like that. Yeah. Because I love the symbolism of Venus and the morning star and all that. So David means beloved. So David Lightbringer means beloved of Venus. Venus being the goddess of love. So that's pretty cool. Beloved of light bringing. It's all kinds of cool little things you can do. Yeah, my real name is David Beers. So Austin Flowers says David Pale Ale Bringer. Yeah. I hate pale ale. That's the thing. I only like I'm not an ale. I don't like all that hops. I like crisp stuff. I probably don't need to drink any more yerba mate this late. Should probably put that down. When will Ned's body arrive in the north? That's a good question. We do not know. It's probably at Moat Cailin, so. How is the new computer? Paul asks. Yeah, if you haven't heard about that, the new computer is awesome. It is noticeably faster in Premiere. Not only can I stream effectively in 1080, using my whole setup and with Windows open and no issues. Premiere, the video editing program that I use, Adobe Premiere, is noticeably faster on the new computer. So editing the Ice Spiders video, I can see that I'm moving faster. Dragging things is snappier. There's less lag, which causes me to get frustrated sometimes. So yeah, the new computer is awesome. Thanks again. A ton of you sent me like $100. There was a lot of $100 PayPal donations. That was the bulk of it. And then a bunch of you sent other donations, 20 and 10 and 50 here and there. So thank you very much. You got me over the mark, and I have a new computer, and that's no longer a problem. So now I should be set to make videos for the foreseeable future. Yeah, LmL is a good metal band name because if you type LmL, it literally looks like it looks like horns. So it's, yeah. I love you, horns. Notice the difference. Sorry. Yeah, I was. Okay, so Hinoko asks, she likes the rebranding and says, do you think the Church of Starry Wisdom has anything to do with the second moon meteor? explosion. Yeah. So, well, the Church of Starry Wisdom seems to be mostly concerned with fighting the others. Both Quaithe and Marwyn seem to want Dany to fight the others. So I think Starry Wisdom is our friend to the extent that they're on team let's beat the others. What are their methods? You know, whatever. Who knows? Maybe they're into dark stuff, blood magic and things or whatever. But ostensibly, they're concerned with defeating the others. So then, the thing is, Bloodstone Emperor, he's regarded as the first high priest of the Church of Starry Wisdom. So the Church of Starry Wisdom is implied as going back to the Long Night, having secret knowledge. But I don't know what to tell you about the fact that they were pro-Bloodstone Emperor, who obviously is pro-Long Night, and now they seem to be wanting to help the characters that are setting up to defeat the Long Night. I don't know what to make of that. Perhaps the idea that they're tied to the Bloodstone Emperor is propaganda. Perhaps they represent better the original astrological religion of the Great Empire of the Dawn. Perhaps they've changed over time. It's been a long time. At some point there was a reformation. We do not know. I think the main thing about Starry Wisdom cult is that they have the secret knowledge. Quaithe has the secret knowledge. Ashai has the secret knowledge. Marwyn is bringing Dany a glass candle so she can obtain the secret knowledge. That's kind of, you know, the main thing that they are doing. Thanks for existing from Coriander. Well, you're welcome, and thank you. Thanks for coming to my live stream and watching me talk. Got 100 people watching and 100 people liking the video, or so. So I appreciate that, guys. And of course, when the stream is over, you can just hit refresh, and then that will let you leave a comment. I always ask you to leave a comment after the stream is over. You got to hit refresh to do that. So, yeah, so that's it. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up here right before we get to 2 hours. So people will see it. It's under 2 hours, and they'll be more likely to click on it. That's called Psychology. Yeah, it's $9.99. It's cheaper than $10. It's not a 2-hour stream. It's only an hour and 58 minutes and 24 seconds. There it is. I am planning on streaming on Monday, I think. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Monday's stream would be 3 p.m. 49ers are playing tomorrow. So I'm moving my regular Sunday stream to Monday. And I've got a couple different ideas about that, so we'll see. We shall see. All right, guys. So have a great Saturday. We're all in Sunday now. So have a great Sunday. Either have a great sleep or have a great day. If you're still up, go to bed. And if you're awake, then say hi to the sun for me. Thanks for the stream in the UK friendly time, says Kraken Queen. Oh, thank you, Kraken Queen. Let me look at the Nimble doc real quick to make sure there's no other missed ones. No. Good. Cool. Thanks, guys. All right. Nighty night. Love you all. Been wonderful. Thanks for hanging out with me late at night. And I'll see you on Monday afternoon.